You've tried setting a Spanish routine in the past, but after a few days, you always ended up dropping it. What can you do differently this time so it actually sticks? Hi, my name is Nacho, and I'm here to help you get out of Spanish intermediate purgatory. Today, I want to help you design a Spanish practice routine that you will actually stick to. But first, do you even need one? Doesn't having a routine take the joy out of the learning process? Well, it depends on what you mean by a routine. My definition of a practice routine is a daily, deliberate challenge that is both difficult and rewarding. That doesn't mean you always have to spend the same amount of time doing the same set of exercises. As long as what you're doing is outside your comfort zone and you feel good after you do it, you can change it up as much as you want. Okay, so now that we've seen the value of having a routine, let's look at two of the main obstacles that you'll have to overcome when you try to implement one for yourself. Making the time to practice Spanish and doing it on a consistent basis. Let's start with the first one. You know, in the movie The Matrix, when Neo achieves enlightenment and starts perceiving reality for what it really is? I want to teach you a technique that will help you do just that. Use a piece of paper to plan your goals for the day, and throughout the day, track your actions and how long you spent on each one. I've been doing this for the past 10 years and it's had a huge effect on my ability to stick to a routine. And this is because our perception of time is completely warped. An hour spent on social media feels very different from an hour spent filling out your tax return. That's why having a piece of paper that objectively tells you this is when you started to do this and this is how long it took you is a crucial tool for planning your routine. There are many ways to implement this technique, and I've tried a bunch of apps that try to make this easier for you. However, a few years ago, I decided to start using pen and paper, and I haven't looked back. There's nothing like having a physical object on your desk that you can flip through and scribble as much as you want. Planning and taking action are two completely different things. When you plan, it's impossible to anticipate all of the unexpected things that might come up throughout the day. That means that when something does come up, you're going to have to start crossing things off and it ends up being a mess. So I ended up designing a planner with the assumption that my goals for the day wouldn't always track with my actions. I planned my day in the goals section, and throughout the day, I updated the action section with the things I actually did. This made a huge difference because, ironically, having the freedom to deviate from my plan made me much more likely to stick to it. Okay, so now let's assume that you've been using it for a few days and that you're starting to get the feeling of clarity about where your time is going. Now comes the second obstacle. How do you stay consistent? I have two strategies for this: planning ahead and setting a low bar. Planning ahead is simply writing down what you want to do before you do it. It's one of the easiest ways to avoid getting derailed and ensure that you actually get started. Instead of spending mental energy figuring out what you should be doing, you simply read the note that you left yourself the day before and get started right away. This can be a huge lifesaver, especially on days when you're just not feeling it. Instead of grappling with the vague, "I have to learn Spanish today," you can focus on something specific that caught your attention the day before, maybe something that you heard or an interaction with a native. Planning ahead is such a useful technique that I actually added a special section for it on the planner. And because I like to fill this section the day before, I always have 3 or 4 things that I'm excited about exploring that day. This could be a sentence with an interesting structure that I want to memorize, or a word that I want to start using more often, or a bit of a grammar that I want to review. The easiest way to come up with things that you're excited about exploring is when you're passively consuming content. That is, when you're listening or reading something and you come across a bit of Spanish that you'd love to use in a conversation but that you're not so familiar with. The Spanish practice session that you've scheduled in your planner for the next day is the perfect time to turn this passive bit of Spanish into active knowledge. The second technique for staying consistent is setting a low bar. If I know that today I'm supposed to go through 50 flashcards to call my practice session a success, I am much less likely to want to get started than if I only need to master 3. So to make this easier, I added another section on the planner called Lo más interesante que he aprendido hoy. And I made it pretty small on purpose. No matter how busy my day is, I always find the time to come up with 3 or 4 things to write here. This is a really low bar for success, But that's exactly what keeps me consistent. By not setting this huge expectation, my brain doesn't have a reason to procrastinate. Even better, after I fill out this section, I usually want to keep going because I'm already in the zone. However, if I'm tired or I'm just not feeling it, I can stop there and still call that day a success, because now I have something that I can explore further on the next day. If you only get one thing out of this video, I hope it's this. The easiest way to accomplish your goals is to track your actions throughout the day. This will give you a clear picture of reality and an opportunity to adjust what you do so that it aligns with what you want. The biggest advantage of tracking your actions is that it's 100% guilt-free. As long as you know exactly what you did and how long it took you, you shouldn't feel bad because something came up and you weren't able to practice all the Spanish you wanted. When that happens, you're in a better position to come up with a different strategy that will ensure that tomorrow's practice session won't get derailed. If you've struggled with staying consistent in the past, I hope you'll give it a try. Go to itsnachotime.com/daily routine or click on the link below and I'll send you the planner I use along with a bunch of useful exercises that you can do whenever you need a quick challenge. If you enjoyed this video, please share it with your friends and on social media. It really makes a huge difference every time you share it, because it helps me reach people in intermediate purgatory that I would never be able to help otherwise. Un abrazo y nos vemos la semana que viene.